Last week, we revealed how Republican Claudia Tenney had won her election to Congress by 109 votes and has now been sworn in as a member of the 117th Congress. Claim her seat from moderate Democrat Anthony Brindisi after a drawn-out legal challenge. Since then, Ms. Tenney has hit the ground running, denouncing New York Governor Andrew Cuomo and demanding he resign after the cover-up in the nursing homes, which we'll talk about later with James. Claudia Tenney, on this wonderful morning, joins us live from America. How are you, Claudia? Congratulations on your win. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
And a great morning this morning. Tell us how you're feeling to be there as Donald Trump is acquitted. Terrific news.
Yeah, it's good news, but I just want to clarify something you said at the top. I actually defeated a far-left Democrat masquerading as a moderate, so I just want to make sure that people understand the real truth.
Absolutely, I love it.
Don't do their work for them. He is definitely not a moderate when it comes to voting. When it comes to projection and getting his supine media behind him, yes, he likes to portray himself as a moderate to fool the voters.
Fantastic, I love that. So tell us your thoughts on Donald Trump's acquittal this morning.
I wasn't surprised. I'm an attorney, and I'm also involved in federal court a number of times. I've had to do constitutional cases. I just think constitutionally, I don't understand why not only Republican, but why any Democrat would even support this charade. The president is gone. It's a removal statute. It's a terrible precedent. So should we go back now and impeach everybody who has made fiery speeches, or maybe people who have violated laws such as Hillary Clinton, President Obama, potentially Joe Biden, all who knew all about spying on President Trump? A lot of it was revealed. I mean, I think they're just setting a dangerous precedent by going through this. And I knew that was going to be acquitted. Unfortunately, there are a lot of political beings down in Washington. They're not serious sometimes, and they're not serious about their oath. And I think you need to take an oath. And sometimes, even if it were the case of a Democrat and I thought that it was unconstitutional, I would have to vote no on the process right now. And I think that they made a big mistake in going through with this. But it was a little dicey today when they came up with some additional information, potentially bringing witnesses in. But in the end, they failed.
James.
I want to ask how much, given though that the outcome of this was more or less a foregone conclusion, how much of this was about putting Trump on trial, and how much of this was about putting Trump supporters on trial?
I think a lot of it has to do with eliminating President Trump. There's a lot of us I'm a Trump supporter. He makes me cringe. I've said it 1,000 times on the campaign trail and for many years at times. I understand people who don't like his personality. I know a lot of people who don't like his personality but love the policy. And President Trump was always good to me. And, I don't like some of the stuff he says. And, since when are we electing people on personality? I heard from a really great advisor of mine who happens to be my son. If we were to put every president elected in the United States through the same prism as we put President Trump, with the criticisms and the media and what he's been through, we probably wouldn't like any of them if we really were to put an honest standard through. So I think the problem is you're condemning Trump supporters. It's like saying that Rush Limbaugh, has created the ditto heads, but it's not the case. There are a lot of independent type Republicans like me who have stood up to the establishment and the insiders in both the Republican and the Democratic Party who wanted to see a voice for them. And though he was a little bit clumsy at times and maybe a little unorthodox and a little rough around the edges, as any Queens real estate developer would be, I think what he did is giving a voice to people who, like me, a small business owner in upstate New York. It was great to have someone like President Trump stand for us. And I think that's why you saw so much support for him and why it was really a close race. So, do I love everything he says and does? No, I don't. But in the end, Claudia, the policies were great, and it was great for America.
Claudia, I'm going to pick you up there because I actually love the personality as well as the policies, and you don't have to make any apologies whatsoever. I think the bloke is fantastic. But listen...
I'm not apologizing for him, but I understand what people think, because they don't know enough about what's going on.
Voter fraud, how much of that was that an issue in your opinion? You had to actually go to court, and there were issues to do with the ballots and so on. What's your take on voter fraud? Did it happen or did it not happen to a significant amount, or what's your take on it?
Look, at every race probably has some element of voter fraud, some more than others. There was a little bit in my race. It's hard to detect it. You have to have a cushion. That's, it's just the nature of the way of elections work. And there's small amounts and large amounts depending on the race. My close race just highlighted that the real problem is some of this legalized bureaucracy that the Democrats have created. Governor Cuomo, our Emmy award-winning governor who sent 15,000 people to their untimely death with his nursing home policy, has created this policy where he did executive orders which were really hard on our boards of elections, and our bureaucracy and our government agencies couldn't handle it. They've also given these very important tasks of really maintaining the integrity of our elections to too many different agencies. The Department of Motor Vehicles. Now they want colleges and universities to deal with this. And that's where the blurred line is. We need to really underscore that one group, the Board of Elections, should be handling this to maintain it. They should be well-sourced, and they aren't, and they weren't because of the pandemic. And that's what caused the chaos. So in terms of fraud, it was more of a legalized chaos. And that's what the Democrats are very good at doing in the United States. They take advantage of the system. And in the end, the really incredible thing is after 91 days of exhaustive judicial review of my race, the Democrats, the same guy who oversaw the Democrat side in the presidential race, screamed about the Dominion voting machine irregularities. Imagine that, undermining our election process at the 91 days after the election. So that is a problem that we have to look at. There was no Dominion issue. A Dominion did not have a problem in my race. It could be in other races. I did not have it. So we didn't have any widespread fraud in my race. What we had was an overwhelmed, overburdened system that did not have the resources to handle the very precise and very important role of administering a fair election.
Rita.
I want to take you back to the impeachment. Explain to us what happened this morning, our time, because there were going to be witnesses called. It was going to be a very lengthy process, and suddenly they decided not to do that. What was behind that decision?
I think what happened is they woke up this morning and realized they had not met the legal standard. I mean, assuming that you agree that we can impeach a person that is no longer in office. It's, again, a removal statute, so I stand by. I just don't think it was even relevant from the beginning. But I think they got up and realized they didn't make their case that the president actually did incite the riots. They didn't put in witnesses. They had none of the evidence that, the FBI and other agencies had shown that there was some planning of this going into the end. They even said that the president hadn't finished his speech by the time some had stormed the Capitol. And so I think that they thought, well, we've got to have some witnesses. They dredged up, there was a statement by a Republican who had been in the Capitol siege, and she decided they put her statement in, they stipulated to keep having her statement in. And that's the thing, I don't know if they were deciding that delaying it would have been a benefit. I'm not sure the American people really want to see us continue on this when we are seeing small businesses and our communities, especially in upstate New York where I live, devastated by this COVID crisis and the shutdowns caused by Andrew Cuomo, who now all of a sudden doesn't like shutdowns. We've been shut down for so long. And I think they wanted their COVID relief, and they wanted to get them to get back to work and not waste our resources and time on this stuff. And I think that that's probably why they finally realized that they probably should close this up. And I just saw before I came on your station, just a real quick snapshot of Jamie Raskin, who is the representative, who's the lead impeachment manager, with very divisive, inflammatory political language at the end of this, which just underscores how political this whole process was. It wasn't a serious constitutional issue to them, which I think it really is. Instead, they turned it into a big political fiasco. And I think that's what we ended up getting was, a very short impeachment, very short on witnesses and evidence, and also, a lot of time wasted forcing people to go on the record on something they really didn't want to go on the record on.
We've just got a few seconds left, James.
Sure.
Very quickly, I'm just curious about your district in New York, and how are your constituents feeling, and especially the business owners and parents and everybody feeling about what Joe Biden has in store for them?
Well, we're very concerned about the policies, the executive orders, more than any president in just a short period of time in the beginning of his presidency. We're very concerned about now, especially under energy, New York State, actually in my district, has some of the most significant energy reserves, and particularly some of the richest shale, Utica and Marcellus shale, that we're not allowed to drill for. And we're worried about our energy independence. We're worried about the schools, the gender bill that he put through with the transgender athletes, transgender men being able to compete in women's sports and eliminating Title IX. I'm old enough that I go back in a time when we didn't have Title IX for women, and now we've just eliminated that. So I think there's just a lot of things people are concerned with. On the economic front, we had a great revival under the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act under my first term in Congress, where we actually, we saw our economy, a glimpse of hope in upstate New York for the first time, because we have some of the highest taxes, regulations, and the least friendly business environment in the entire nation in New York State, maybe tied with California. We finally saw a chance for us to come back, and a lot of our business community come back. The pandemic has shot us down, but now Joe Biden's policies could very well put us in a bad position as well. And non-competitive, as you see, New York has continuing to experience the outmigration of businesses and people like no other state.
Claudia Tenney, thanks so much for coming on today. Again, congratulations on your victory and on Donald Trump's victory this morning. Thanks so much for coming on Outsiders today, Claudia.
Thank you. Look forward to visiting you all someday.
Love to see you. That'd be great.